Good evening, Facebook. Welcome to the first Story County GOP live event being live streamed. My name is Brett Barker, and I am privileged to serve as the chairman of the Story County GOP. And with me, I have John Henry, who is our publicity chairman. And so we are coming live to you. We'll be talking to some of our supervisor primary candidates here in a moment. The first one is working on dialing in, and then the second one will join us in a little bit. So before we get started, we'll talk a little bit about our plans here this evening as we give our candidate time to get in here. So you'll have the ability to ask questions to the supervisors in the chat, and John and I will be monitoring that. So hopefully we can ask some of your questions live to the candidates. Otherwise, we had our big Lincoln Highway dinner. We were raring to go here this month. It's a big event for us with 5 different counties, a bunch of auxiliary organizations, and it's been a really fun event the last years, and we were looking forward to that. Unfortunately, due to the current situation, we were unable to have that event. Both of these gentlemen you will hear from this evening were looking forward to introducing themselves to folks at that event, and since we couldn't host it, we thought we'd bring them to you. So that's our goal here this evening. So again, welcome, and we are glad to be here. So maybe what we can do is John can introduce himself, and we'll talk a little bit about the technicalities of the election, and then hopefully by then we'll have a candidate on here with us.
All right, this is John Henry. I am the publicity chairman. Recently acquired that position by default. Well, you know how it goes. You go to a meeting and everybody else steps back, so you end up being the chairman. But it is a really important time, and it is a confusing time, and it's a troubling time for all of America, for Story County, because of the virus, because of the new ways of doing business that we all are figuring out. And this is one of the new ways of business that we're figuring out, which is video conferencing. I remember back as a child, we had books that talked about the fact that someday, and that was always a nebulous someday thing, we'll be able to talk to people and see their faces. And it has become not only reality, but commonplace and a way of doing business. And so we are looking forward to doing electronic campaigning, doing electronic business as usual for the political parties, for business, for family reunions even maybe. And so this will be the screen in front of you will be our reality, and we will figure out how to do the best we can with it.
Yeah, very good. And a little bit about this election. So there is a primary election coming up in June. So you have a little over a month to decide who you're going to vote for. There are some primaries on the Republican side. There's a 4th district congressional primary, which most folks have probably heard about by now. There's 5 candidates running for the congressional seat. But here locally, which is what our local party focuses on, are some of the local races. So there's, it's a little bit of an unusual year for the supervisor's election because there's a 2-year term and a 4-year term because there was a vacancy filled. So we have 2 gentlemen vying for the primary for that 4-year term. And so that's what you would be voting for now. So the Secretary of State's office did just drop to all voters the absentee ballot request form. So there you go. John's got it in his hand. So those have reached mailboxes. So with the current social distancing requirements, you can absolutely show up live at your polling place on election day. But what I will be doing is filling out that form that showed up in my mail this week, sending that in. They'll send me a ballot. I'll fill it out at home and send it right back. So it came with a postage paid absentee request, which is going to be pretty handy for folks to be able to join. So with that, if you're, again, as a reminder, if you're watching and you have questions for our candidates, please go ahead and put those in the box. We have one of them that hopefully is dialing in here at 6, and then the other one will be on shortly. So after that, so maybe with that, since we don't have anyone here, John, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I think that we should talk a little bit about what the supervisor's position is and what they do, what some of the things are that are just out and about in the supervisor world. The government in the city, county, state is split up into different types of governments, and so you have your local city council, which Brett is a mayor in Nevada, so he can talk to you all about that. And then you have the county government, which involves the county administrative officers and the county elected officials, as well as the county board of supervisors. And the board of supervisors serves as the legislative part as opposed to the administrative part of the county. And historically in the past, they get to deal with all kinds of fun stuff like zoning for agricultural land. We have seen them in the news off and on, talking about different kinds of animal confinement areas that are being proposed, and the pros and cons, and also the impacts of those. The impacts of rezoning agricultural land to light industrial or industrial land may fall under the county supervisors. So they have a lot of things that they do, that they are involved with, that impact all of us, whether we think about it or not. The county super, Brett, help me out. 5?
3. So
3.
in Story County, we have 3 county supervisors, and like John mentioned, it's a little bit unusual because they do both legislative and some executive functions. So it's a little bit of an unusual system of government, I guess I would say. But yeah, there's 3 of them in Story County. They're elected at large through the whole county. And then, like John said, there's the other county offices as well. But yeah, supervisors, there's the 3 that are on the board of supervisors. Right now, there's, like I said, the 2-year term that'll be on the ballot. There's also the 4-year term. And so that's what our primary is about, is who gets to represent the Republican Party for that 4-year term.
Another thing that fits into that is the number of hours that are expected. County Board of Supervisors actually make more money than the mayor of Nevada does, and so they work more hours, and need to be involved in all of the county communities and rural districts and rural things. Some things that they are involved with that I'm aware of. The Department of Natural Resources, or the County Board of Conservation, has projects like the different county parks, but also walking trails and those types of things, or bike trails, and those involve the supervisors. Out in northeastern Story County, there's a large number of windmills that are generating power, and there's some significant tax money that comes in from those, and that has been a boost for our county. And so part of the job of the county supervisors is to determine how that's spent. What else you got, Brett?
Yeah, I think that covers it there. We do hope to have more of these type of events as we move on. So one of them very possibly could be about the 4th District congressional race. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that election that is also on people's ballot, so that they understand where to find more information for those candidates and what that entails.
Sure. And there are I believe 4 candidates. I attended a meeting. Crawford County did something similar to this with those candidates just a few nights ago. And Steve King is the incumbent. Steve ran into some trouble with the media over the last 18 months or so, and so he has 3 people who are running against him in the primary. All of them seem to be really nice folks. Have met several of them. A couple of them are on almost every GOP meeting that we get onto, learning more about the district, learning more about the people who are on those committees. And so I am encouraged, I think, by the fact that the candidates all take the role serious. This is a chance to maintain a Republican seat in the United States Congress, and the Democrats are going to be presenting. And I don't know, have they a single candidate or do they have multiples as well? Brett, do you know?
I think there's just one, but I honestly haven't looked. But yeah, like John said, ours is contested. There are actually 5 total candidates.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's exactly what's good about a primary. I think it gives folks a choice. It lets them make an informed decision. So I would definitely encourage everyone to vote in the primary. So I don't know how many times I hear when it gets to November is, I don't like my choices. Well, there's a really good way to impact your choices, and that's to make sure you vote in the primaries. So there's pretty low turnout in primaries. Hopefully folks will understand the importance of primary elections, because that's how you get your choices in the general election. So yeah, like John said,
This is easy. This is easy, folks. You don't even have to leave the house.
Yeah. So you have Congressman Steve King. I think folks are familiar with Steve. And then for the challengers, there's State Senator Randy Feenstra. There is Jeremy Taylor, who was a county supervisor out in Western Iowa. There's plenty of background you can learn about these folks, so I'm not going to get it all for sure. Brett Richards and Steve Reeder, who both have a business background. So there are those 5. I'd encourage you to go online, learn more about them. Maybe on a future week, we'll have them here coming to you on a live stream. So yeah, that's handicapping that race that's going on. I did see a question from Jim Lohr about the logistics about, so basically the question says, so does whoever come in second in the Republican primary for the 4-year term automatically qualify for the 2-year term? And that would be no. However, there is the mechanism whereby a county convention can be convened to nominate for vacancies after the primary takes place. So there is that mechanism. That being said, the caveat is, in today's environment, what that would look like. And it does look like we have a candidate popping in here. So I'm gonna hopefully bring them in.
You should see the screen split to 3 faces. There we go.
There's Steve, he's connecting to audio here. Hey, Steve.
Wave, Steve. All right.
Yeah. So hopefully we can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome. With us tonight, we have Steve O'Rourke. So Steve just been handicapping the primary election, the logistics of it, how it works, those types of details. So maybe to start, if you want to tell folks a little bit about your background and your biography is a good place to start.
Okay, my background, I grew up in Eastern Iowa on a farm. I'm the oldest of 13 kids. And I came to Ames 45 years ago as a student at Iowa State. We've been married 43 years. My wife Barbara is a NICU nurse at Blank Children's Hospital in Des Moines, but our entire married lives have been in Story County. And we started in Maxwell, moved to Nevada, and then from Nevada moved to Ames. And we've had a couple homes in the Ames area. And I've been self-employed my entire working career. So 40 years, I've been self-employed, owned several businesses. And it was due to one of those businesses. I was a mortgage banker and a real estate broker for 10 years and got out of the business in 2008 when I thought the market was going to crash. And then took a different, went a different direction. But today, my wife and I, we own Ames Westside Storage on the west side of Ames, 250 unit storage unit. And it's the first 100% automated storage system in Iowa. So it's run by computer kiosks. So I don't have to be there every day, which is, to meet everybody. It's great. And then I'm also a licensed public adjuster in Iowa and Nebraska. And for people that don't know what a public adjuster is, when folks have problems with their insurance companies paying on a claim, maybe not paying enough or denying their claim, eventually they'll find somebody like me. And to the best of my knowledge, I think there's only about a dozen public adjusters in the state of Iowa. So we're a well-kept secret. So that's what I bring to the table. I've got a lot of business background, a lot of experience, but what I want to do for Story County came about when I was a mortgage banker and a real estate broker. I ran across a program that's just down the road. It's in Polk County. And I want to bring this program to Story County. So.
Very good. And for folks, again, if you're watching online, we'd encourage you, if you have questions for Mr. O'Rourke, you can type those in there, and John and I will hopefully will get to them. But I know John has a bunch of questions he'd like to ask too, so we're just going to kind of go back and forth and ask you about a couple things.
Don't make it too tough, John.
Oh no, I'll try and be nice.
Okay.
The first one, I think I'm going to ask you to follow on with what you said, because my first question is, what is your most powerful reason? Passion and that kind of thing for becoming a supervisor.
My wife and I have been fortunate that we have always owned homes. We have never in our marriage, we've never paid rent to live in a home. And I think when people own real estate, it gives them a big foothold into the community. I think people's lives changed. And I know real estate to me is a big part of our financial portfolio. And when I was a mortgage banker, this program that I ran across, it was only in Polk County, and I was doing loans from border to border and river to river, and never saw this program anywhere else. And it's 30 years old this year. So it's nothing new. And what it is, people can get a $10,000 up to a $20,000 forgivable construction loan that can be attached to a first and second mortgage. And it's forgiven over a 5-year period. And I know we're always hearing in the news, the media, people are talking about it. I think there's another study going to be done about affordable housing in Story County. And the thing about it is we've got a lot of product here in the county. You go into all the small, the communities, I don't care, Zering, Maxwell, Ames, wherever you go. I've spent time walking up and down the streets, for instance, here in Ames, just looking at real estate and how it's being taken care of. And this program that I would like to bring up here would help everybody. So it's a program that can be used for purchasing homes or refinancing homes, but they have to be owner occupied. Okay, so this is not for investors, and it's private funded, and all the banks that are supporting this program in Polk County, we have in Story County. So they're here. So that's my passion, help people.
And these loans would be used for purchase, but also for renovating. If you had a house that was not in very good shape that you could buy for a song, you could purchase it and then use the additional funds to repair it. Is that what the idea is?
The funds, it's a construction, it's for doing physical construction to the house. So it's not the actual purchasing of the house. When you get these loans, it's got to be used for something structural. So roof, siding, furnace, air conditioning. You could build up to a 2-car garage if the site, allowed it.
Okay.
You have a 3 or 4, but it's limited to a 2. And this program was originally started in an area of Des Moines that needed some help. And where it's located, it's still in the same place that it's been for 30 years. And it expanded. It expanded in Polk County. So now it's in, I believe, Windsor Heights, West Des Moines. It's gotten spread out throughout Polk County a little bit more. And then 2 years ago, well, it was probably 3 years ago, a gentleman in Cedar Rapids, he was a banker, and he was running for the city council. And Cedar Rapids had that big flood in 2008 that really wrecked a lot of the downtown area where all the homes were. And he was looking for a program to help rejuvenate that area. And he became familiar with this Neighborhood Finance Corporation, NFC is what it's called. And he got elected to the city council in, I believe, 2018. And last year was her first year of actually doing loans, these construction loans. I believe he said they did 41. So that was his first year up and running with the program. So 41 homeowners were fixing houses in Cedar Rapids. Last year, Neighborhood Finance Corporation in Polk County did, I believe it was 186. Now the most done in 1 year is 300. That's what they told me.
We better move on. We're going to run out of time. Steve, another question that is on everybody's minds, I think. The supervisors have a role of balancing. What do we do for Ames? What do we do for the rural areas? What do we do for the small communities? And that balance act oftentimes puts city councils and other people in opposition to what the supervisors are wanting to spend money on. What, from your perspective, what kind of a role would you play in being sure that all the county is represented in the work of the supervisors?
Well, the first thing.
Okay, they aren't all easy.
The first thing, whenever I get started, I listen to people. I really do listen to people and figure out what the problems are. Once I figure out the problems, then I start tweaking. And so I think, and I know there's always, I'm sure people think Ames is here and Ames gets everything and everybody gets what's left. But for instance, with the program that I want to bring, I've already talked to half the mayors before we got shut down because of the virus. And all the guys I talked to liked what I was telling them. And then I couldn't get to everybody. And I'm a better person in person than I am on the phone or on the internet like this. So,
well, we'll learn.
I'll bring everybody to the table. I just like to get things moving. If people go up to Gilbert and find out some of the things I've been involved in, usually when I get started, it's a whirlwind. I tell people I build the chute, I jump out of the plane and I start building the chute on the way down. So.
All right. Brett, you got one? You want me to keep going?
Yeah, so one I have for you, Steve. So if you can tell us something that you feel the county does well and it has been doing well, and where do you see on the flip side the biggest room for improvement?
Well, I think guys like Wayne and Rick left us in pretty good shape. I know they've got a plan for repairing bridges and such. I haven't looked into all the details. For 20 years, my storage business, the ground we own, surrounds the Storey County Maintenance Shop. So for 20 years, I've had the chance to sit in that shop and listen to the guys out on the roads. And I've got to hear what they like about Storey County. And sometimes I've heard the things they don't like about Storey County, both sides. But again, I like sitting down, talking to the guys that are out there doing the work. So I think you got to go to each community, talk to the folks that are on the ground, and then, devise a plan. And if there is a problem, how are we going to fix it? There's always a solution. You just got to take a little time and figure it out. That's part of being a business owner. So.
Okay, we're going to be
one other thing, guys. My dad was a county supervisor years ago in Jackson County for 12 years. And he had a motto, and I'm going to resurrect his motto. I'll spend your money like it's my own. So I've got a website right now, and it's called StoryCountySupervisor.com. And when I went to check for domain names, first of all, I didn't think that name would be out there. And it was there, and I was just kind of blown away. So I purchased that domain name for 99 cents. So you guys can look up StoryCountySupervisor.com. That's me.
There you go. So all the listeners now can know where to find info on you. That's perfect.
Pretty easy to remember too, isn't it?
Yep.
One other thing that I think goes with this, and then we're going to let you speak for a minute or so on whatever it is you want to talk about. But the one other area that I think supervisors just always run into once or twice in their career is the conflict between the person who moves out into the country to have a nice house, and he parks himself next to a guy who has a farm, and that farmer ends up wanting to build a confinement of some kind, or even a horse barn or whatever, and there's a conflict there. What role do you think the supervisors need to play in that conflict between agriculture as a business and real estate as a home?
Well, I know that's a hot issue. I grew up on a farm, and I do have a story that's going to take more than a minute.
Go for it.
So we might have to have that one in the future, but it happened right here in my backyard. And, first of all, we are an agricultural state. Farming is a big part of our economy in this state. And I know people want to, move out in the country. My house is out in the country. I'm 2 miles outside the city limits of Ames. But when I built here, I told Barb, I said, well, we're going to go out to what I think's comfortable and stick close enough to Ames. And, I didn't, probably I wouldn't, I grew up on a hog farm, guys. I know what hogs smell like. So anyway.
My uncle said hogs smell like money.
They do. They are money. Well, some of them might say they're not money right now with the pack being closed, they're hurting, But the thing about it is, I think we got to be good stewards of the ground, the farm ground. There's areas out here in my area where, they put houses and it was rough ground. I mean, a cow couldn't live on 20 acres. There wasn't enough grass. It was rocks, and old scrub pine trees. But then right in my own backyard, there's 80 acres that was great farm ground. And that got converted into, there's going to be, I believe, 47, 50 plus houses there. And I had people right here in my development were upset when that was happening. And I said, well, if you don't want it there, put up the money and go buy it. That's always the other answer. If you don't like something, then step up to the plate, insulate yourself. But then what became an issue with this development, and this is something nobody looked at till after things happened, is the tile. There's tile out in these fields, and a lot of people don't know where they're at. They get broken, destroyed, and all of a sudden you got water issues. So that's an issue to get all together too, and that's something that the county supervisors are in charge of.
Absolutely, water district stuff.
Yep, you bet it is. But I think for the most part, most of your farmers are, I was talking to somebody else about this today, the farmers generally are good stewards. They don't want to pollute the water. They don't want their soil running off more than anybody else. And, they're doing all the things that you're supposed to farm, with good farming practices. My own dad, I grew up in the hills in the eastern part of the state, and we had one of the first farms with contour strip crops. And my dad did it with horses, not tractors. And we had 150 acres tillable and didn't have a ditch on it. But Dad always said 150 tillable and 250 if you had the guts to go for it. And that's kind of what it was. So,
you had another 100 acres that were vertical.
Yeah, but we farmed it, but we didn't lose the ground because Dad knew how to farm it with the contour. So that's what I grew up with. My dad won conservation awards. So that's how I was raised.
Brett, what else we got? We haven't had our other candidate pop in yet, so we can keep going.
Until that happens, I'd say keep going with some questions.
All right.
Hey, I was downtown campaigning, guys. I got home as quick as I could when Brett called me.
No, you did good. You did good. We filled the space, and we'll find out later if anybody thinks we did a good job or not.
Can I tell you what I'm doing?
Well, sure.
Well, being I can't go out and go door to door talking to people, and I'm just trying to get my name out because, my name recognition probably isn't that high. So I lettered up my truck, and I've been going out standing in the bed of the truck waving to people. So every morning I get up at 6:30 and I'll be coming to your town soon, Brett. Okay.
There you go.
And so do you say, "Hi, I'm Steve O'Rourke"?
No, it's on my truck, Steve O'Rourke, County Supervisor or Story County Supervisor.com. So
all right.
Website on the truck.
So you're all set.
Yep.
Okay. One other point. I live in a small town. I live in Colo,
Yep.
and there seems to be a real lack of continuity or lack of overall communication between the different communities. Part of that is the community's fault. They want to maintain their own independence.
Yep.
But is it possible? Is there something that can be done from a county perspective that opens more doors for more opportunities for more communities, that spreads economic development out across more of the state or more of the county in this case?
Yeah, sure.
And what kind of things can you think of just off the top of your head?
Well, first of all, I'm very pro-business. So, and again, I was talking to somebody else about this today, and I said, as a county supervisor, when you get out and you start getting, the doors will be open, I think. Hopefully, I knock on the door, hey, I'm your Story County Supervisor, because I'm calling on the businesses. And there's an old rule of thumb. You're only 5 people away from the person you need to talk to. So when I get through one door, maybe that's not the one that's going to give me an answer, but they might be able to refer me to somebody else. And I know there's people out there in these smaller communities that would love to have, a viable business brought to their community. So that's something I would keep my eyeballs on and ears to the ground, because and when you talked about the communication thing, I think that's just a matter of being a presence. You got to be there. This is not a part-time job. In my opinion, this is not a part-time job. This is a full-time job.
Well, I had a boss who said that anytime I finished after 9 p.m., I could take the rest of the day off. So it's a part-time job. It's all a perspective thing.
Well, my day usually starts around 5:30 and ends about midnight most days.
So if you finish after 9 with your last meeting, you got 3 hours to yourself. See, it's part-time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed part of the conversation. Our Wi-Fi went out, so it's making me super excited to have fiber in Nevada soon.
And I think the other piece to the question that Brett asked about What do you think the county's doing well? I think the other piece to that are, what are the biggest issues? Do you have, from your visits with the county workers in the highway department, but also from your communication with the business leaders across the county, what does Steve O'Rourke want to change?
Well, like myself, when I listen to people that are trying to develop business, and maybe this, because I live in Ames and I built my company here in Ames, sometimes there's been, and I've heard it from other business people, sometimes it's hard, here. I mean, my particular ground was zoned industrial when I bought it 20 years ago, and then the zoning changed, and it took me a few years to get back to where I could do what I wanted to originally do with it and put storage on it. And to give you an example, I had a friend in Nebraska. He wanted to build a storage company, and he asked me to come over. So him and I went and looked at some sites, and I was just there one day, and we made an offer on a piece of ground that was in this nice community where they build snow blowers, Aaron's snow blowers and lawnmowers. And we had a piece of ground that was right outside the door of the factory that 500 people a day drove in and out of. So we made the offer, but I put about 15 contingencies on the offer. All the things that I had to do to jump through the hoops to get mine built here. And then we went and saw the local inspector, for the city, the guy that was going to call the ball. I forget what his title was that day. He also owned the local gun shop, so he wore two hats. And so when we went in there, I said, I started going through the contingencies, and he goes, nope, you don't have to worry about that. Nope, you don't have to worry about that. And I'm going through it thinking, all the hoops I had to go through, and you're telling me no hoops. I said, what do I got to do to build this storage company here? And he gave me three things I had to do. And they were all viable requirements. And this was a very nice community, very well kept community. It wasn't a hodgepodge in any means. So I think sometimes, and the codes, the building codes and all those things, that's great. But I think sometimes, sometimes we get carried away with some things and you go to the other extreme, and that's not good either. There still comes down to some good old common sense, I guess, some days. So maybe that's not what everybody wants me to say, but that's what I'm saying.
That runs out my questions that I had, Brett. And I haven't gotten any from online. So, Steve,
maybe it's just us three tonight on here.
We'll see. Brett had to call you, so maybe he's going to get on the phone with the other guy.
He's in a tractor trying to connect, so I did get that from.
Oh my! He's in a tractor. You see, there you go.
But we're having all sorts of examples of rural broadband issues. So.
Okay, now you're talking on a hot button I have, but I don't have an answer to.
See, the other thing I'm going to do when I'm elected, I'll spend time with each department, all the different departments in the county, and I'm going to dig in and figure out what they like and what they don't like. And I'm going to ask them, what's it going to take to make, if there's a problem? If there's a problem, there may not be a problem. My big thing right now is you're either improving this county, it's either going up or it's going down, but it does not stay status quo, okay? And I think we got to take care of this housing problem, and you take care of the housing problem, all of a sudden you start bringing people here that stay here, that raise their families here. All of a sudden the kids are going to school here. And then they get involved in the schools and they get involved in the local organizations. And then instead of going to Moines, Marshalltown, Boone, or north to Fort Dodge or somewhere, wherever they're from, they'll start spending their money here. And because I'm always encouraging my wife, spend the money here. Don't stop in Polk County when you're down there because she works at Blanks. I said, always come back to Story County to spend our money. That's what I tell her. So I'm just for, building this county. I've lived here for 45 years. I put my stake and my claim here, and I love this county.
So I'm going to throw this one out there. This one's from my wife, who's actually walking on the walking trail in Nevada right now. We have
trail system. Come on out and check it out. It's open.
Yes, and we have walking trails. We have trail systems in Nevada. We have trail systems in Ames.
Story City has some. I know of.
Story City has some. There's some that goes from
Iowa,
Slater,
Cambridge,
Slater, and Huxley, and they go west to Madrid. They go south to. They actually go south through Polk City all the way to Ankeny, but they don't connect. Not well, anyway. There's a halfway, mostly reasonable connection between Nevada and Ames, but there is a trail up by McCallsburg-Zeering, but it's mostly grass, and it's just an old railroad trail that hasn't been improved. But if we could, and we just spent supervisors and the county conservation group just spent a bunch of money on Hickory Park out here by Colo, but there's no trail all the way around it, and it's not connected to anybody else. The thought process being, what would it look like? How would we work together as a whole county to establish a Story County trail system, rather than a Nevada system that's built by the neighbor folks, and a Ames system that's built by maybe the city of Ames, and other systems built by other small groups. How do we bring those together? And while we're at it, hook Colo up, because poor Colo doesn't have a trail.
Well, you and I both know it always comes down to the money. That's the issue right there. But I guess what I'd have to do is sit down and look at the trail system and try and determine how tough it would be and what would be the cost to tie these all together. Because if you could tie them all together, I can see that being a big attraction for tourism.
And I think it could also open up some other economic stuff. Madrid has built a couple restaurants that are right alongside their trail, for instance.
Sure.
But so it opens up other opportunities, but it also makes every community a part of something else.
Something bigger.
Something bigger.
Well, that's a
big. Yeah, that's a big topic, because we've talked about connecting the Nevada trails down to the heart of Iowa, down here in the Cambridge area. So yeah, it's definitely a big topic on how you can get folks connected down there, because you can get to that heart of Iowa, you can get to the High Trestle, you can get down to Des Moines and Polk County, and that's a major connection, that north-south, to connect down to that. If
we could get, and here I'm going to throw this one at you. If we could get out to Hickory Grove, that would make Hickory Grove a destination, possibly, for bike riders who want to go on a bike ride for a picnic. They'd have a place to go, and then from Hickory Grove get to the Heart of Iowa Trail, which is a fairly short connect point. You can go out on the road that the Nevada Trail has gone out to the Nevada Country Club, for instance, and if we ran across that road where the country club is, it's about 3 miles to Hickory Grove.
Sure.
And so, there's ways to piece it all together, but there needs to be a a driving organization to do that, and there needs to be funding.
Well, that's what I do is I raise money. I've been raising money since I was a sophomore in high school. So, but again, I'd have to take a look at what we've got right now. And probably the best way to do it is, like you said, start with the one that's got the shortest connection and then start building from there and bring it out. But I think it would be somehow a type of, like you're indicating, a coalition between all the communities. But my dad, when he was a county supervisor, he loved tourism because he said all we had to do is provide them a road, bring them
Yep.
in, and then they spend money and they leave.
Give them a road and a reason to come.
That's
All right. So we did get a question, and I love it when we get questions that I don't understand. So Brett, BJ put a question on the board. Can you go ahead and cover that one for us? Uh-oh. Can you hear him?
No.
Okay, your audio's out, Brett. I guess I'll do it. BJ.
Sorry, my daughter's having dance lessons out here, so I was trying to get Miley Cyrus muted.
Okay, now I
Zoom
hear
dance lessons are in the dance studio's in the next room.
Okay.
I hear Brett.
So yeah, BJ had a question, which does get into the weeds a little bit, about master matrix and CAFOs with local control, also talking about commercial wind energy systems, and whether the county should hand local control over to the Iowa Utilities Board.
BJ, give me an idea of what a master matrix for CAFOs are.
So those are those hog confinements, and the state has their
Okay.
matrix and all that. And what he's asking, you know, about local control about commercial wind energy, or whether the utilities board should manage it. Kind of like how the county with the confinements, it's based on the state requirements, and the county really has little jurisdiction or control. So I think that's what he's getting at.
Okay.
So how much
I don't understand
local
the
control
question.
are you willing to give up?
Well, right now you're catching me off. How much control do we have now?
Well, for the wind energy, I think that is still largely, I mean, there's a lot of funding that comes through the county, and I think it was all zoned and done through the county, and I'm not sure, BJ.
So we're supplementing the wind energy?
No, it's going the other way. The wind energy is paying the county.
Yeah, that's the tax increment financing. So what they're doing is the turbines increase the value of the property, and so the county is capturing that increment and using that then for further economic development. So I know they've done projects in Ziering and some of the small rural communities with that, which have been successful based, but the funds they got for that came off of the tax increment financing from the turbines. But rather than stay down in the weeds, maybe that's a topic we can come back another time. I did get message back from Patrick Sheets. He's unable to connect from out in his field right now, so we will look at offering another opportunity at another time. So
Also, Brent, don't forget 7 o'clock, I got to connect on that practice run for the 14th.
All right. Well, I think we're at a point where, Steve, we have probably worn you out. I know I've ran out of questions, and so
Well, there's a lot more detail to my program that I'm going to introduce. Here's the big one. In order to bring this to Story County, they tell me I got to raise at least $1 million. So
and you're gonna raise that money through.
I'm going to raise it through business.
So donations or commitments or
Commitments. It'll be the business community that will support it.
Okay. So not taxpayer funded.
Not taxpayer funded.
All right. I think we'll do what we can and try and try and wrap this up then. Steve, we would love to hear more about this system of improving homes for homeowners. And sounds to me like it probably would also be a boon for our construction companies, our small
The
contract
contractors?
companies.
You bet it would be. Yes.
And so there could be with a how many $1 million?
To start with, to prime the pump, somewhere between $1 million and $2 million.
Okay, so at $20,000 a piece, that's 500 to start off with.
I'm setting my goal a little higher than that.
I understand, but I'm just saying that 500 home upgrades, that puts a number of construction guys, contractors busy for quite a while.
Yeah.
And that would be in addition to the work they're currently doing. And so there would be new jobs involved in that. And if
Yes.
it was not funded by the government,
And just so you know, the government has kind of a similar program, 203K rehab, but the problem is there's no check and balance with it. And when people put a loan together, because I did them as a mortgage banker, and when they close the loan at the day the titles change hands, they give the homeowner the money and say, go to it, Tiger, do your improvements. And many times the money gets spent and the improvements are not made, or they're not made by a contractor, so it's not done properly, and it's a mess.
okay, so
There's a check and balance system.
all right, very good. We will give you a forum to talk more about that later. Brett, what else you got?
Nothing else. Just want to thank people for joining us and thank Mr. O'Rourke for joining us, and make sure you turn back in your absentee ballot requests and get those primary ballots in the mail.
And can I say one last thing?
Of course.
Go to storycountysupervisor.com.
I was wondering if that's what was coming. Yeah, and two, you're welcome to put that in the chat box here that folks can click on the link after. And I'm sure if you have a social media presence, you can link to that here too, so folks know where to find you.
Yep, we're getting connected.
Sounds good.
Thanks for this opportunity. If you folks who tune in on Facebook like this and wish that John Henry wasn't the host, please put that in the information too. We will do what we can to improve this. It's a while till election time. Who knows? Maybe we'll get Trump on.
You're only
We'll
5
see.
people away.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.